What is up, YouTube? My name is Eben, and today I am going to bring you a Misty-themed, modified format Pokemon deck. And before we go any further, be sure to give that button a like down below and subscribe if you want to see the rest of the Kanto gym leaders and the gym leaders of the other regions eventually as well. But enough said about that. We're going to theme on Misty today, and Misty is best known for her Staryu and Starmie, of course, her iconic Pokemon. Because this is the video game Misty, not necessarily the one from the show. Now I'm going to depart a little bit because it's actually not going to be a water deck. I took the best Starmie in the format because I feel like Starmie is more of a theme than just having a water deck and slapping the name Misty on it. So we're definitely going to be running this Starmie, which is actually a Psychic type. It's got 90 HP, which means it's a level ball target. It's got a free retreat, which is very awesome, always good. And it's got Psychic weakness, but that doesn't really matter because we got 90 HP anyway. For 1 colorless energy, it deals 10 damage, but if this Pokemon and your opponent's active have the same amount of energy attached, this does 60 more. So basically, if you can match the energy amounts on their Pokemon and your Starmie, you deal 70 damage for, well, potentially a single energy. But we've got a few tricks, because, well, your opponent could have 0 energy on their Pokemon, or they could have 2 or 3. And so we want to make sure that we can always hit that number and hit it every turn. And we want to try to turn these into one-hit KOs even on EXs. So we're combining with evolutions to try to really hit those weaknesses hard. And at the same time, we're going to be using Dimension Valley so that we can actually attack with 0 energy. I mean, otherwise your opponent could just put up any old Pokemon with no energy on it and stall your Starmie exceedingly well. But since we can actually attack with no energy on our Starmie, we can actually still hit for 70 even when they try to chump block us like that. So it's actually an amazing feat. Pretty cool that there's like no way to stop it, and we can go from 0 to 3 to 4 to whatever amount of energy we need. But we're going to get into that in just a sec. We of course have to run 3 Staryus. Now I personally prefer the continuous spin Staryu from the most recent set, but you can also probably the better choice is actually this Staryu from Primal Clash because of its lunge. You get a 50% chance of nothing, but a 50% chance of 20 damage guaranteed. But I feel like if you're actually attacking with Staryu, things are probably pretty bleak as it is, so you might as well go for the gusto, you know, throw it all out there and use your continuous spin, because you might, no matter how incredibly tiny the chance is, you might KO anything with it. And you know what, like I say, if you're attacking with Staryu, you're pretty much done anyway, so, you know what, might as well go out with a bang. Who knows, something cool might happen. But, you know, that's just me. Personally, I think the technically correct choice would be this Staryu. But this is my deck, and I'm going to do it my way, which means it's these Staryus. Do it your own way. I encourage you. That would be awesome. But anyway, how we're going to make sure that we've always got the right amount of energy is we're actually running Aromatisse in this deck, and we're running Fairy Energies, because Staryu doesn't care, or Starmie, sorry, doesn't care about what kind of energy's on it. It's a colorless energy requirement, after all. So Aromatisse will allow us to move our energies around and give Starmie the precisely right amount to match our opponent, which is pretty darn good, because it means our opponents can't easily manipulate us and get around us with things like double colorless energy and whatnot. So we've only got the 2 Aromatisse because we've got a lot of Pokemon, and really we just need 1 on the bench, so this helps us make sure it happens. 2 Spritzee, I still think this is probably the best Spritzee, but that's kind of a judgment call, but I think that's really the best one, because we're going for the max HP there. We have Vaporeon, Flareon, and Jolteon in here just for their effects, so that we can capitalize on weaknesses by having Starmie be a Psychic type naturally, but it can also be a Lightning, a Fire, or a Water type. Now, if you don't need it, once you look at your opponent's deck and what they're running, you probably won't need most of these, so don't be afraid to get rid of them to your discard pile. Battle Compress them out. You won't need them anymore. We also have 1 more evolution in this deck. Now, it's a modified format deck, so it's not going to be Leafeon. What we're actually going to run is Sylveon. It's an amazing counter to Giratina and can really help Starmie set up so that you can hit lots of things. It's very good against special energies like Strong Energy and Double Dragon Energy, which if they're moved to a Pokemon that is not the right type, they'll just get discarded. Because the one attack we're going to use here is our Curly Ribbon. It's only 1 fairy, and we can use Energy Evolution Eevee to instantly go up to Sylveon even on our first turn if we want. It's 30 damage, and it moves in energy from our opponent's active Pokemon to one of their benched Pokemon. So it's pretty fantastic. You could Echoed Voice, but we're basically trying to capitalize on Curly Ribbon here to get, if we go second, we could even attack with Sylveon this way if we start with Eevee. But it's a big hoser for Giratina, basically. And anybody else who's running dragons and double dragon energy by coincidence also does not like to see this Pokemon. And it can be pretty disruptive to anything that needs to power up a lot of energies onto it, potentially. So it's definitely worth including. Now that said, we're running Energy Evolution Eevees just so that we can get our one Sylveon if we need to, and other than that, it's just, a decent Eevee. We're only running 3 because we're not going to need to get all 4 of our Eeveelutions up, so we're just getting 3 to make sure we get Eevee, basically. But like I said, we're going to battle compress the Eeveelutions we don't need in a given match. And we have one more Pokemon, because we're really going to need one more basic to start the game to round us out at 8. That's a pretty good number. And we're going to actually go with Dedenne. Mainly because we're not going to run EXs, give our opponents easy knockouts. We don't really have the room for Shaman EX, believe it or not, but Dedenne is going to help us set up our bench pretty well. Get a Spritzee, get an Eevee, get a Starmie, get a Staryu, whichever one you happen to need. And for opponents who power up a lot of energy on one Pokemon, like, say, Veltal EX, this is a great teched-in card to take care of it because of energy short. And it also doesn't care what type of energy is on it, so it's a fantastic choice for this deck, and it can be very, very clutch. Now that our Pokemon are done, we're getting into our supporters. For Sycamore is pretty obvious. This is definitely the supporter you want to see 9 times out of 10. We are going to run 1 Birch's Observation, kind of a versus seeker target, but it can be pretty useful in the late game too, potentially. But yeah, it's basically just here to be a 5th draw card. Teammates, because everything in our deck is only worth 1 prize, and they get knocked out fairly easily, so this is a fantastic versus seeker target. Gives us a lot of pinpoint and control, keeps our combos going. Skyla, because we're going to have lots of things to target. On her worst day, she still just gets you a Sycamore, which is not the best, but it's certainly still better than nothing. But she can get us a lot of crucial things to help set up. She can get that Dimension Valley if you need another one. She can get you a Muscle Band, whatever you need. Because after all, Starmie is 70 damage when it's synchronized. Well, the Muscle Band, that's 90, which if it doubles for weakness is 180, which is what we're trying to hit. We also have Lysander, or however you want to pronounce it. Technically, Lysander is probably correct, but I don't know. If you know, post it down below. Lots of people have opinions. Very few people seem to actually have it for sure. But anyway, yeah. So Lysander helps us set up those knockouts by getting in the thing that we can OHKO. If nothing else, you can call up a Shaman EX with Jolteon on the bench. That's an easy KO. Don't even need Muscle Band for that one. And we are running 4 Versus Seekers because we really want to capitalize on reusing the supporters we do have. We don't need a lot of them just because we can Versus Seeker for them. So that's why we have a fairly shorter supporter count in this deck. And we have 3 Battle Compressors. Battle Compress the Versus Seeker targets, and then you're also trying to Battle Compress out the Pokemon you don't need in that matchup. So Eeveelutions that won't be useful, like if your opponent's not weak to water, if Vaporeon's not going to be terribly useful for you, go ahead and compress them out of your deck so you don't top deck them. Just get them out of the way. Just do it. Do it. Ditch them out. It's okay. It's going to be fine. Alright, and Dimension Valley is super crucial because otherwise we're very easily chump blocked. So we are running 4. Don't play it until you really need it, unless you're about to ditch your hand to Sycamore or something like that anyway. But this obviously gets rid of their stadium, but more importantly, it keeps Starmie in a position where it can always do a heavy hit. And search-wise, there's really no reason to run Ultra Ball in this deck, but every Pokemon in this deck can be targeted with Level Ball, and we really want to very consistently and quickly get them all played up and out. We want our engine running on our second turn, just as soon as we can evolve. So we're running 4 Level Balls, because this gets us the basics we need on our first turn, and it gets us our evolutions on our second. So full complement of Level Balls. You don't always see that, but you're definitely going to see it here. And we're running 3 Muscle Bands. This is to turn our 70 into 90, but this can also be useful when we attack with something else, which we'll get to in a little bit. But we actually can attack with our Eeveelutions, not just Sylveon. But that Muscle Band's pretty useful. And to make sure we get that energy, because we do want to get it out quickly, we do have a letter, which you can, of course, draw, or you can Skyla for. Or you could Teammates for. We do have Super Rod. This is to recover our Starmies and Staryus in case they're not, in case they're getting knocked out a little too fast. We can put them back in the deck, and we can easily search them back out. And this can get us energy in a pinch as well. I like the flexibility of Super Rod over Sacred Ash. We are going to run 2 switches, because while our Starmies and our Jolteon have free retreat, everybody else has got a 1 energy retreat, and if we don't have to pay it, why would we pay it? And it gets around status too, so it's just a really logical choice. And to help all our Eeveelutions potentially attack if we need to use Aromatisse to switch all the energies onto them right quick, we do have 1 Rainbow Energy. You can always just attach this to Aromatisse for the 10 damage to not be a problem, and then move it, and that way the right evolution can still actually use its attack. And that's just a nice out to have. Aromatisse makes it so gosh darn easy to do, there's no reason you really wouldn't do that. And the rest of the time, it's just essentially another fairy energy. And the rest, we've got an 11 fairy energy count here, essentially. But essentially, it's a 12 energy count when you count the rainbow energy. So 12 energy, that should be all you need, because we're moving them around. You shouldn't lose more than like 1 or 2 energies at a time, most likely. And use your Lysander to kind of keep your energies from getting bombed too much. If somebody's getting a lot of energy on them on your opponent's side of the field, you know, that's the thing you want to Lysander up and knock out, so you don't find yourself in a bad situation where Starmie can't synchronize easily. So anyway, that is the deck. And as I said before, like, comment, subscribe, check me out on Twitter, link is below, and I will see you next time.